What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Kilo Loco, and I had a quick topic that I wanted to go over today because I was I was at work and I had to essentially include hyperlinks into some text because it was part of like showing the terms and service or the privacy policy, and that was inline text that needed to be clickable. So what I needed to do was I needed to make it so that a user could tap on the words terms and service or privacy policy or something like that, and then they would be directed to a website. And I just wanted to share how you would do that. So let's go ahead, jump right on in. And as you can see, what we're going to do is we're going to be working with this bit of text right here where it says click here. This is going to be the highlighted text here to check out the Kilo Loco membership. So this is just an example of what you could do, like some type of prompt that would just be like some type of text that you would want to be a hyperlink or essentially a redirect to some type of website. So what we're going to actually see is that it's a pretty plain project. Right now I only have the text view connected, and we're doing this in storyboards right now, but I mean, if you know storyboards, you can translate it to code pretty easily. But yeah, as you can see, we have this text view right here. And the problem with using hyperlinks is that you can't really do it using labels, and if you can, it's probably way more complex than using text views. So you're definitely going to want to use a text view in this case. So first things first, let's start making some of the changes to the text view. So like I said, set up your text view with whatever text that you want to have in it. In this case, we're going to have click here to check out the Kilo Loco membership. And what we want to do is we want to go over here to the attributes area, the attributes inspector right here. And as you can see, it has this property called data detectors. It's right here. And all we need to do is just check link. And all that's going to do is it's going to scan the text, and it's going to check for anything that follows like a natural URL format, I guess you would say. Next, what we want to do is we want to make sure that our text view isn't editable. You generally don't want the user to be able to, update this to say whatever they want. But you do want to make sure that it is remaining selectable because the user needs to be able to tap on it. So it does need to remain selectable. And then depending on what you're trying to display, usually in these situations, you don't want it to be able to scroll. So I'm gonna just turn off scrolling, bouncing, the horizontal and vertical indicators. You just don't need those in these types of situations, but your situation might be a little bit different. Anyways, now that we have our text view all set up, we made sure that it's selectable, and we have this link as a data detector. All we need to do is head back over to our view controller. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to update our text view in a function called update text view. And we just want to make sure that we're going to be calling this in the view did load. So I'll just call it update text view. And now whatever code that we write in here is going to be executed. Now, you could do this right here in line, but just so that this is something that's a little bit more practical to you, something that you could use in your projects multiple times, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file so that we can do an extension on NS attributed string. All right, so as you can see, I created a file called NS attributed string extension. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to make an extension of NS attributed string. Pretty simple, straightforward, right? Now, the reason why we're creating an extension on NS attributed string is because that's what we're going to actually have to work with in order to, make the text into a hyperlink. And what we want to do is we want to be able to have it accessible anywhere that we create a NS attributed string. We also want it to be a static function because we want to just be able to say NS attributed string dot our function name, and then that's going to return back the correctly formatted attributed string for us. So let's go ahead and create a static function that's going to handle all this for us. All right, so as you can see, this is what I decided to call my function name. You can obviously name it whatever you want, but you're pretty much going to need these three parameters if you want to make this thing dynamic and reusable. So what we're doing is we're saying make hyperlink for path. This is going to be wherever we want our app to go in Safari. So it's going to open up like whatever our URL is in string. the in string, this is referring to the string that we're actually talking about. So this would be referring to this entire string that says click here to check out the Kilo Loco membership. And then over here as substring, that's actually referring to the part where we're going to actually be highlighting that's going to be tappable. In this case, we're going to be using the word here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these three parameters and it's going to spit out an NS attributed string for us. Now, the first thing that we really need to do is get the substring's range. We want to get exactly where this substring is inside of this string. So what we have to do is we have to create a NS string and then get the range of this substring inside of that NS string. All right, so as you can see, we're using NS string just pretty much because working with strings and NS strings is pretty much a pain in the ass, and you have to use the correct one or else you're going to get the wrong type of range. If you didn't convert your string, the one that the entire text right here, into a NS string, when you did this, it would actually give you back a regular range, and what we actually need is an NS range. So we want to make sure that we're getting an NS range back. That's very important. Next, what we want to do is we want to actually get the attribute, or we want to create the attributed string and then modify it to accept, or modify it to hyperlink the substring that's in this range. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so as you can see, we created a NS mutable attributed string because once again, working with strings in Swift is super duper fun, super duper. And what we're doing is, since it's a mutable attributed string, we can actually set this to a let, and that attributed string, we can add attributes to that string. Now we could add multiple. If you guys really want to see how far we can take this and make it a little bit cleaner so that you can have you know, your strings be formatted in all kinds of different ways, then make sure you like this video. If this video gets more than 100 likes, then what I'll do is I'll continue on this topic and just make it a little bit more verbose, a little bit cleaner, and, you know, just a little bit better. But yeah, so as you can see, we're just setting an attribute. Now, NS attributes actually has one called link. And that's essentially just making sure that it's a NS URL or a URL that we're going to be able to open. And then we're going to pass in the value, which is going to be the path, whatever the URL that we're trying to go to. And then in the range of that substring that we created, or in the substring range that we created up here. So that's why we needed that NS range. And then all we're going to do is just simply return that attributed string. All right, so that's pretty much all we needed to do for this function. So now whenever we have an NS attributed string, and since this is a static function, we could just say NS attributed string dot make hyperlink and then pass in all the values. So let's go back over to our view controller and let's go ahead and start passing in some of those values. All right, so as you can see, all I did was I created a path or a URL or whatever you want to call it. I call it a path whenever it's a string and a URL when it's an actual URL object, but I created a path, I created a text, and then all I'm doing is I'm creating an attributed string by saying NS attributed string dot make hyperlink for, we pass in the path, then inside of that text, and then we want the keyword here, and you have to make sure that you spell the keyword right. It has to be part of that string that you're actually using, or else it's not going to work. And we're going to use the word here. Now, if I wanted to change it to Kilo Loco or something like that, whatever, as long as it's in that string, this will work. And then from here, all we need to do is just set the attributed text inside of our text view. All right, so let's go ahead and run that real quick and let's see what happens. So as you can see, what it did is it did technically work. We do have our text in here. And then whenever we tap on here, you're actually going to see it open up this website right here, which is the Kilo Loco membership. And everything seems to be working, but we actually didn't want the text to change the way that it did, right? Like we had it nice and, it was big and wide and everything kind of looked nice, but now it's no longer like that. Well, there's a couple of different ways that you could do this, but the easiest way would be to actually just copy the font before you modify before you actually modify the text view's attributed text. So what we can do is we can take the font from the text view before we set the attributed text, and then set the font back to what it was after we set the attributed text. So as you can see, I'm just creating this font variable right here. We're copying whatever the value is of the font right now before any changes happen. Then the changes happen on the attributed text, and then we set the font back to what it was previously. And what this will actually do is it will set the font back to what it was, but it will also keep the attributed attributed string. Now the other thing that we're missing is the color. So we also want to set the color, the text color of the text view to white, just like it was before, but we don't because we might not know exactly what that is. What we can do is we can take the text color just like we did the font and do the same exact thing. All right, so as you can see, we're grabbing the text color and then resetting that text color after we're done. So let's go ahead and run that and let's see what happens. So as you can see, now we have the same font size that it was and the same text color that it was before we did the attribute, and we're also keeping the hyperlink working as well. So when we click here, it's still going to go back over to our Kilo Loco membership website, and yeah, it's all going to work. And also make sure you check out this Become an iOS Dev in 12 Weeks. That's pretty cool too. But yeah, as you can see, everything's working. Now, like I said, if you guys like this video and you guys want to see more videos that are revolving around attributed strings, leave a thumbs up and I'll make sure I'll cover that in the future. But I just wanted to share that real quick with you guys. It was something that I had to work on, so I thought you guys might find it useful. Anyways, that's going to be enough for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure you go out there and keep coding passionately.